how has the restriction because of the Corona crisis affected your work in sensory and consumer research?
Definitely the job was affected because it catch us totally unprepared as well. So the restriction in the headquarters in Lainate, which is close to Milan, where the panel is situated, went on in force at the beginning of March. We had to stop the activity of the panel for 3 months. We put on hold some projects, and we discussed the way we wanted to proceed further. So at the end, there was a general idea that these things could take a couple of weeks. So we were not really thinking about doing anything than waiting. But then after weeks, we got the impression that it was much more larger time to wait. So we decided to organize a remote testing. We asked panelists to use their own laptop. If was not possible, we were providing a tablet. And then another critical part was the preparation of samples, because following all the indication of the authorities and be on the safe side was kind of complicated. We have to transform the panel room in a sort of small pharmaceutical lab with our panel leader working with masks, gloves, and everything that was necessary to reduce any possible contamination. Then we decided to ship the sample not with normal post, but using our drivers. We have 2 or 3 internal drivers that usually bring people that come from abroad or internally from one side to the other offices in Milan. And this time they have to do a little bit the delivery boys for us. And this is mainly the logistic part. Then it comes the technical part, and this is what worried me much. I decided to do testing with certain products which usually are more stable. And we were lucky because March, April, May, and June were not very hot days or very hot months. July was more critical. So for July, we also had to ask people to keep the sample in the fridge and open it 1 hour before of the testing. And this was creating we had to add another level when the preparation of the sample, because we didn't want cross-contamination between samples.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, the samples, could you give me an example? What kind of samples were they? Chewing gum, sweets,
Okay.
or?
So we usually test a lot of chewing gum. Then we have lollipops, hard candies, jellies, extruded product, and tablets. But gum it's really an issue, because with gum you just need few degrees Celsius and a bit of relative humidity, and the result can change a lot. Mm-hmm. So I decided to work with what was feasible, and we start this Microsoft Team experience. Mm-hmm. Which I have to say it went very well, because in the first week we retested all products, and we noticed that the results were more or less similar. Mm-hmm. So we're quite confident to get good results going further. The panelists took it very well. They are kind of happy to work remotely, although the majority of them in reality would prefer something in between. So maybe do some testing at home, but trying to get together also in the lab. I would say 50-50. Okay, mm-hmm. Consider that we test during 4 days a week, so 2 days and 2 days.
Mm-hmm. So were you actually
Of course.
able to, sorry, were you actually able to transfer all of your planned testing to the home testing, or was it only possible for a part of the testing you had planned before?
So at the beginning, I translate the most favorable testing. So this product, which didn't need lots of control for environmental condition. Then I also start with more sensitive products, but then you see more variability. So certain results were good to use, other results were more difficult to interpret, let's say. We also took the occasion to see how far we could push this, because we were forced to do it. So it's good in the future to know what can happen if you change environment where you test. For the rest, we didn't manage, of course, and this it's a big issue for me, that we still have to stop discriminative testing, because this was something that we are doing internally with employees, and not having employees in smart working doesn't make possible to do any triangle tests or tetra tests or anything that I wanted to do. So this is something that I hope in September will be partially restored, but this is probably the main issue we couldn't overcome.
And now, when we shift looking from testing to the general situation, in your opinion, did some product categories profit from the crisis? One would maybe expect that people eat more sweets or more chewing gum, more comfort food. What is your experience and opinion?
Well, I have seen most of the categories suffer. Suffering in general, our category as well, as far as I know, sales are going down, but it's not just our case, it's for everybody. If I see a shift or a profit shift for good or for bad in the future, that's very difficult to say. I mean, in general, this lockdown, this global lockdown, has generated a sort of economic crisis. So I don't think that we can expect huge profit in the future, although I see stock market behaving very well, maybe rationally. I also see specific case like Spain, where I'm sitting at the moment, or Italy, where many people are losing their job, unemployment is very high. So if people doesn't have the money, I really doubt that they will buy chewing gum or any other category which is not essential. Definitely there are someone that profit, delivery companies, but they are a bit far from the FMCG world, I think. I mean, we had the pandemic in the past, and we sorted out. Humanity is still here. What I don't know is how we will, what will happen, because this pandemic came in already kind of fragile economic environment. So I think we have to wait and see. But definitely there are some trends that possibly will remain and other that will disappear. And one that could remain possibly is the one of doing smart working from home, although maybe not at this level, because I don't know, I have a panel leader that at the moment can go to work twice a week, only because she's partially taking care of a lab. I see it very difficult if she doesn't bring the lab at home to work by remote. So this to me is not a trend that can stay. But in general, it shifted minded towards the fact that many work can be done from home. And this, especially for Italy, which was a traditional country where you really go to an office to work, this has changed a lot, and possibly this change would have taken years. And thanks to the pandemic, it took 3 months or 4 months.
Yeah. And I have heard that people seem now to be more eager than before to try out new products, maybe shift from one brand to another brand or to no brand. Do you see the same thing? What would that mean for brand companies?
I don't know if they are shifting brand. I think if you like a brand or you like a product, you will stick to that product. What I see is changes in behaviors. And one trend that seems to be enforced by all this pandemic, someone is saying sustainability. I don't believe that. Honestly, this sustainability trend for me is very strange, because I have seen people here in Spain producing 3 times the garbage they do normally, because they were all scared, wearing masks, wearing gloves. They didn't really pay attention. And now that the situation is more relaxed, honestly, and there is more safety around, I don't see a shift in this. So what I notice is that people staying for a long time at home, they realize that maybe they had something which were not really working in their life in terms of family, work. Maybe they realized that certain brands or certain products were not delivering really what they needed once they were using them constantly and not once in a while. So a clear example for this is cooking. So many people realize that cooking from scratch at home can make a clear improvement in what you eat. On the other hand, I don't believe that this is a trend that will stay for everybody, because I notice also that people prefer to take an home delivery from an Italian restaurant, although it will arrive at your home not in the best condition, but not to renounce to someone that is cooking the food for you. I think we need to be very careful to what is temporary and what is a long term. Mm-hmm. For sure, people have lots of time to think about their life, so we should know what they have thought about to understand if they want to shift.
What is your impression? Sorry, what is your impression? What might they be thinking about?
My impression is if that the virus disappeared tomorrow, 99% of the people will go back to what they were doing before, if I have to be frankly speaking. And maybe a small portion of them will shift toward a more calm, relaxed life. But maybe if there is something that will stay, it's related to the house, because people really realize that their houses are not fit to spend time in there. Mm-hmm. And this is something that probably will stay. So I see people using brands and change their home to live more in it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I explained myself well. This is the only really thing that I've seen changes, at least in Spain and in Italy. I don't know other countries because I am not really aware of other kind of traditional background. But this is something that here is gonna definitely stay.
Mm-hmm. And when you would think of a product that could accommodate that wish to make your home more livable, what would come to your mind?
Well, I'm talking possibly more furniture. Oh, okay. Furniture, space, maybe product for the garden. There is very little regarding food. Personally, I think food is a bit penalized by all this trend, because the only thing that can happen is that people realize that it's better to cook at home than buying a prepared food. Mm-hmm. So on this aspect, or either we come back to what we had before, or we should expect changes which will shift people towards basic products and less elaborated product. But I don't know if this will happen, because there is an entire and definitely very strong trend about convenience. The fact that people work from home doesn't mean that they have more time. A lot of people complain. I've seen many, not only in Spain, but even in UK and on the Wall Street Journal, people complain that they work from home more than when they work from office. Mm-hmm. So convenience is a trend that is difficult because humanity really like convenience. Mm-hmm. And which means that at the end of the day, possibly a frozen pizza, it's always good. And you don't want to stay at home baking for the rest of your life.
One last and personal question. Has the pandemic changed or accelerated some of your thoughts and behaviors?
My thoughts is that this crisis which is coming and all that happened have definitely allowed people to think more. And I think people will realize, and we have to realize, that we go towards a world where there is much more automatization. The fact that we can work at home, it means as well that there is something that physically is doing the job for us, which could be another person or most probably a machine. Mm-hmm. First, it was a physical machine, robots, okay, like in the factory. Now in the future could be artificial intelligence. So in the future, either we keep this system where people work 8-10 hours per day and we have a lots of unemployment, or we will have to shift towards working more of us, less time. And here for me is the real trend, because if this happens, then people will have an entire quite a huge time of number of hours to do something. And here it's where corporation in general can fit in. Can be many things, and can be also that we that mainly produce FMGC have to think differently and enter new categories. Mm-hmm. But this is difficult to say. If you see this trend now, it's not happening. What it's happening is working as usual, but having less unemployed people. I don't know how much this is sustainable unless you don't provide these people with the means to live, which at the moment they didn't have, they don't have. Mm-hmm. For the rest, that's something I wanted to add when you asked me about management. Mm-hmm. Because I have to say that at least in Perfetti, I had a lot of sponsor for sensory analysis, so it was always seen like a very important asset. So I didn't suffer much. So I don't know how to say, but our sensory lab was never in doubt. Mm-hmm. I think people realize that it's very important, and it's an asset that is here to stay, despite the numerous trends that want to robotize and change the sensory environment. I have personally to say that it's 20 years that I hear about machine that will do the job of the panelist. Mm-hmm. And in these 20 years, the only thing I have seen is more sensory panel and less machines. Mm-hmm. I cannot foresee in the future, but this is the reality today. So I really hope to go back to my lab. Bye, Fabienne.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Ciao.